If we need to go deeper into how our object is constructed, we can use the attribute editor. Now, this kind of works in concert with the channel box, and it exists in kind of the same area. So if we want to access the attribute editor, often you'll have a tab here, and notice how this is double wide, or we can press this button here to get into this. Now, right now, my attribute editor is blank, but if I select an object, you'll see that the contents of this change depending upon the object that we have selected. So if I select, for example, this TV set, you'll see that we have a whole bunch of different tabs for this. So I have tabs for the TV set, its shape, how it's shaded. Now, this TV set has a number of different colors and textures and materials on it, and those are all indicated by additional tabs. So this is, for example, the gray rubber on the dials, and this is a matte gray and some blue plastic for the body of that TV set. Now, if we scroll over here to the very top, you'll see that we have some common nodes that are available for almost all objects. So the first one is just our main node. Now this has a lot of the same information that we have in the channel box. So if we notice here our translation in X, Y, and Z, and we go over to the channel box, you can see that we have those exact same numbers. So I'm going to go back to the attribute editor, and we can actually move this object along any axis. So if I wanted to, I could type in 0 for translate, and it would move it in the X direction. Now I'm going to go ahead and undo that. Now this is also where we can select and display pivots. So if I want to, I can turn on rotate pivots. We can also display things about the object. So I can display a handle for the object, which shows the pivot. And if I select a different object here, you might be able to see that a little bit better. So if I hit display handle, you can see that that's the handle for this object. And that's really where the pivot point is for the object. So if I were to move this object, that's the pivot. I can always turn that off. I'm going to reselect my TV set here. And then we also have some additional nodes. Now these may change depending upon the type of object. So this is our main node, which basically determines the position of the object. The second node is typically what's called the shape node. And that's actually the node that has the geometry and controls how the object itself looks. So this is the position of the object. This is what the object itself looks like. So we can change all sorts of things about the object's shape. We have things such as tessellation attributes, so we can basically add more or less detail. We can turn on mesh component display, which allows us to display this object a little bit better. We can actually smooth the mesh. So if I turn on smooth mesh preview, notice how that gets a little bit smoother. We can also go down into rendering. So we can actually make this object cast shadows, receive shadows, do all sorts of rendering tricks. And we also have what's called an Arnold tab, which allows us to manipulate the object for the Arnold renderer. Now, any sort of geometry in Maya will have this shape node. Now, in addition to this, there may be additional nodes besides this. If we've added modifiers to the object, if we've changed the shape of the object, or manipulated it in any way, additional nodes or additional tabs here will show up. And we can actually step through those to further manipulate the object. Now, we're going to be using the attribute editor throughout the course, so this is mostly an introduction to it, so hopefully you'll understand a little bit about the attribute editor when we get to it further down in the course.